Hi, my name's Cameron. Welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to talk real quick about quality of light. If you remember in the last video I mentioned that we would do a quality of light video when I drew this sphere. The question is, what do I mean by quality of light? Well, this is a term that photographers use a lot. It basically means how harsh or how soft is the light that is hitting your subject. In other words, how beautiful is the light that's hitting your subject. Well, this is a topic that we can use as artists as well, that we can use when we're drawing our pictures. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw a couple more spheres here. So I'm going to draw this first one right here. Oh, that is perfectly round. Of course it is. If we had a light source coming from a similar direction as this one above, but that light source is very small, meaning the light doesn't spread out. So let's say that light source is about like this and it does not spread out. What happens is you end up with a very, very harsh light. So it's going to be very pointed, and it's not going to diffuse itself around the object. It's not going to spread out. So you'll have a highlight that lives in this area here, and then when you start talking about your core shadow, that core shadow gets very dark, but it's very sharp, right? So that core shadow would end up being something like this. I'm just going to make this pencil a little bigger. It's one of the advantages of drawing in digital land. So you would end up with a core shadow that gets incredibly dark, and it has sharp edges like this, right? And then your highlight space would be very sharp as well. So it would kind of look like this, right? And then somewhere in between here, I won't do it in this drawing, but somewhere in between here, these two things kind of fall off. But what happens is your shadow space stays very tight, very hard, and it doesn't actually allow for this to fall off all that much. And then what happens to the cast shadow is, since this light is so small in comparison to our sphere, our cast shadow gets incredibly dark, right? But it is also incredibly sharp. So the cast shadow would look very, very hard edged. So the way that I can describe this is like when you're standing outside at high noon and the light is coming down on you, the shadow that you cast on the ground is incredibly sharp. It doesn't get long, it doesn't stretch out, and it is not soft around those edges. So let's draw another sphere. I'm just going to make this a little smaller. So we've got another spherical-like object. I'm going to make this bigger. Now, let's say our light is still coming from the same direction, but this time that light is incredibly big. It's like this. It's incredibly big in comparison to our object. Well, what this is going to do is it's actually going to soften the light. So what happens is you end up with a highlight up here that is very large, very big, largely because the light is coming all around it, right? If this is our light, the light is coming all around it, and so this light is actually going to spill. It's going to wrap because it's going to get soft. And the larger the light is, so if our light source was like this size, the larger the light is in relationship to our subject, the softer it will become. And I know some people will say, well, the sun is very large, so why isn't it super soft at high noon? Well, the sun is very large, but it's really, really, really far away. And so in relationship to us on the Earth's surface, it's a hard, harsh light, right? So what happens to this highlight is it'll actually blend off. It will get soft down in these areas, and it will kind of blend around the sphere, creating this really soft highlight that comes in like that. And then our shadow, our core shadow here, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger but I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. What happens to our coarse shadow, I'm going to make it even lighter than that. And that was too light. Let's have a little bit of color in there. So what happens to our coarse shadow is our coarse shadow ends up being incredibly soft because of the way that the light spills around our sphere. And one of the reasons this becomes so soft is because this light can affect the bottom side of the sphere because it's so big that it's going to bounce from these areas here up into the sphere, and it's going to come down and hit here and bounce into the sphere, which is going to cause that cast shadow to be incredibly soft. And then we can go in and blend this out in the middle. I'm using a very large blender, so it's happening very quickly. And then we can come back and add just a little bit of some of that reflected highlight back up into that space. That highlight's probably a little bit too bright for this particular drawing, but you get the point, right? And then what happens to the cast shadow is, let's make this smaller. The cast shadow is really, really soft, right? So it's going to kind of come out like this, and right underneath here it will get kind of dark because this is the only area underneath that the light isn't really spilling into. So this area will get a little bit dark. But as you come out here, that area gets lighter and it gets softer as you come out. And as you go this way, same thing. The cast shadow is going to get lighter and it's going to get softer. So it kind of blends off out here. And the reason for that is the light that's coming from up here, from all of these areas up here, right? This light is eliminating this shadow. As it comes down in here, it's going to hit this surface and it's going to eliminate the shadow. So you're going to have a little bit of a cast shadow that comes down like that, but as this light spills around, it softens off that shadow. So in terms of quality of light, is your light very harsh, like this one over here? And does it create a lot of really harsh, deep shadows and a really strong shadow down here? Or is your light very soft that creates these incredibly soft shadow areas and highlight areas that wrap around your subject? If you think about that when you're creating your drawings, it will help you create more dynamic images and allow you to mimic the types of light that you see in real life, as opposed to just guessing as to what that light should look like. So that's it for this quick video. I hope you understand the technique that I'm talking about here. If you don't, please drop a question down below. I'd be happy to answer it. In the meantime, stick around. There's going to be more videos coming, and we're going to start to move beyond some of these basic drawing steps. And we're going to start getting into topics that show us how to use these techniques to start making more advanced drawings and things that, we can show to impress our friends, because that's why we all create art, right?